Ops.
Alright, so we are in the picks and bans actually. The drafter has gone up and the players are drafting, so let's hop over there real quick and see what's been going on. So the bans are Rook and Bastion. Things I basically expected. Rook is so strong as your ranged carry right now, and we actually saw to what effect Bastion can be last game. He's easily one of the tankier tanks in the game, on top of being able to shield everyone around him, and he's got great initiation as well. So the picks work 1-2-2-2-2-1. So FNK picked Harrower first, then Lag picked their two, and then FNK picked their other two. So that's the order of things if you're sort of wondering which one is a counter pick to who. So Lake, what do you notice so far about what these guys have picked?
So right off the bat, I noticed that new team picked or banned Bastion, and that's essentially always to set up trying to grab the best two tanks in the game. Following Bastion. So Bastion's a really strong tank. He has great utility. He does a lot of damage as far as his kit goes. So he was the first ban, knowing that the other two tanks on the board were wide open. They ended up picking up the Bo Claudessa. So they're kind of forcing FnK Gaming to pick the non-typical tanks. Now they've got the Shank. The other tanks on the board are Hale and Ace. Ace is one of those heroes that is very controversial, very pub stompy, but as far as competitive play goes, I think has a really low win rate. So he's not that viable as far as competitive play goes. So that's a tactic that new team actually ended up doing, was banning that Bastion. And when someone does ban the Bastion against you, it's either a a snipe pit or a snipe ban specifically targeted towards a player on the other team, or they're trying to set up to get the double tanks. And if you notice that, you definitely want to think about changing your first pick to be not something like a Harrower, but maybe like a Bow, so you can secure some of that hard initiation. Unless you just don't really care about it, then you can worry about, giving them the Bow Claudessa and picking up some other tanky initiation. In a Hale or an Ace type pick.
Yeah, so when we talk about tanks, generally the big three tanks that come to mind, trying to talk, Bo, Claudessa, and Bastion. I finally got that right. I don't know what it was about just trying to say it now, but anyway, so those three are the sort of main tanks you think about when you bring up tanks. So when it comes to Shank, what is one of the big reasons why he's not in the, say, holy trinity of tanks right now? Because generally, I only ever see Shank played in competitive play when he's sort of a pick that goes after the Bow Claudessa or Bastion, when you either can't get those or they're picked out or anything like that.
So Shank's role is very much dependent on your team comp. Essentially, Shank isn't that hard initiation like you have in your Bow and Bastion. Claudessa has that hook and tries to follow up on the hook with the initiation. Shank solely relies on his ultimate as trying to get those pick type fight initiations. The only other way that Shank is an effective engage is kind of coming in from like a flank and using his speed boost to get in there and start doing as much damage as possible. He's a very efficient bruiser, but not a very strong fight initiator.
Okay, I definitely see that, and one thing that also sort of makes his initiation a little bit more inconsistent is that I actually learned this when I was playing a game a couple days ago, but you can actually pincer out of Shank's ultimate, which is actually pretty huge. So if you try to catch someone out and they have a pincer, if as long as they're on time with their reaction time, you're not actually going to be able to catch them, which is pretty huge, especially when you get that one pick that you know is going to start the initiation, but it's just pincered out. So that's something that also makes his ultimate a little bit more consistent. And like you say, even though it can make picks, it's if you miss it, then Shank doesn't really have too much of an initiation left. So if we look over on the on new team's side, after that Bow and Claudessa pick, their next two picks were Featherstone and Carter. So very, very high damage on their next two picks. Both sort of susceptible to Shank picks. So we'll have to see how they work their positioning around in order to save that, because if Carter gets, say, shank hooked, then Carter's super squishy. He doesn't have a lot of escape mechanic, and almost the same way with Featherstone as well, where if you see Rook, Rook has his invulnerability, so he has an escape mechanic, and there are also a couple of other, like Vermilion has his jump. So these are two sort of less mobile and more susceptible to shank. So what else do you think about that?
I'm actually really excited. I called it from the beginning that the Carter pick was something that I was expecting to be banned versus new team. I think they knew that lag plays that rook, so that's where that target ban was coming from. But that definitely opened them up to the Carter pick, and I'm really, really excited to see new team play that Carter in these matchups. He's just such a strong hero right now, and I'm actually surprised Vermilion hasn't been picked up just yet. They ended up going with the Featherstone. I would have liked to see maybe a Vermilion. Vermilion's just a really strong hero, one of the top priority picks as far as ADs go. And you can ask any of the pro ADCs out there. Vermilion is just one of those contested AD picks that's very consistent. Like you were saying, his ability to get out of things with his ultimate, he has cheese shot. He just does a lot of sustained damage and has a way to get out with his ultimate.
Yep. So, uh, what do you think Fennec is going to pick in response to that? Because they're already sort of on the back foot with the trinity of tanks being banned and picked out. So it looks like they're going with a Vex so far, and we're gonna wait to see what their second pick is. But yeah, what do you think
So
about all these?
Frenic has the possibility of running multiple picks bottom right now. They can run the Shank bottom. They can run the Harrower bottom. They could even pick their bot laner right now in a Hale, Moxie, Trixie, Minerva. Those are all very viable bot lane picks. They could also pick up other heroes like their AD right now, either in Laser, and kind of go for those Blazer, Vermilion, Vex lanes with the Shank Ray, Harrower bottom. I think right now it's hard to say exactly where they want to go, but I'm assuming that they're probably going to pick their AD now and send Harrower in the bot lane. I I think that's a good pick or good strat, especially because FnK has the possibility of having a Harrower going to Carter. Harrower is a stronger pick against Carter, but it can be played either way. Like anyone can win that matchup. So I'm really interested to see what they pick here. I think it's going to be an 80 though.
All right. So, just looking at their comp, I feel like it might be Blazer a little bit more than Vermilion, but I'm not too sure, and I don't know these teams too well either. But Blazer and Vermilion are definitely the top two that we would expect. Are you leaning towards either one or the other?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards Vermilion. Overall, Vermilion is going to be a better pick against new team's comp. He has the ultimate. He's able to kind of get out of those Claudessa hooks and bow engage.
Ooh,
But it looks like I'm
that's
wrong.
different. Okay. So going with the Malady instead. So a lot of lockdown there, a lot of burst, but they're really relying on Harrower to be their big AD threat.
I that's very interesting. Harrower is a very strong hero when it gets into later game, but he's not that AD carry per se. He turns into more of that AD bruiser, more in his melee form than his range form. So it's uh, I think they're going to kind of go for more of like a pick comp here. So spread out across the map, try to get those Malady and Ray pickoffs. You have the Vex ultimate to come in and kind of power play some of their picks, and then essentially have that Harrower be that split pusher, that 1v1er that's going to kind of sit there, put consistent pressure down in your lanes and on your towers, and hopefully be fed enough to where whoever they send in that lane, he'll be able to 1v1 them. I think that could be a strat that Frentic Gaming's going for, is kind of a split push pick strat. But Not sure. I don't have a whole lot of information on FnK Gaming, so it's really interesting to see their picks and how they're going to utilize them.
And new team looks like they're going to round out their comp with Vermilion, so another 80 carry going double 80 carry, double tank, and then a Carter. So very, very high damage, and I feel like their comp is overall just going to work a little bit better, so long as they can do sort of what FnK did last game, where they survive the early game, stop the bleeding mid game if FnK were to get ahead in the early game, which they might because they do have very powerful laners. Uh, then they're just going to be able to group up in the mid to late game and hopefully going to be trying to prevent themselves from getting picked off by FnK's comp.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And the fact that new team definitely has a superior late game comp. The only problem I see with it is the fact that there's a lot of pick potential from FnK Gaming. And if FnK Gaming can get some of those picks on their carries per se, they don't have the CC on new team to actually do a hard disengage. They have the an engage with the bow kind of jumping in, getting his ultimate, Claudessa kind of following up. But aside from those two specific heroes, there's not a whole lot of CC. I mean, there's definitely the targeted CC from Vermilion's ultimate, and you do have Carter's rocket, but they definitely have to be a little careful in their positioning to ensure that their heroes or their carries are not getting picked off by the Malady, the Ray, the Shank hook. Um, so the potential's there. It's just going to be a big action-packed game. I definitely think that new team's going to use their double 80 comp and try to push the advantage with the Carter poke, kind of staying in the back, being definitely playing a little safe. So
All
I
right,
think
and
the rotate.
go for it.
I was just going to say, I think that they're going to use their picks and their siege potential to definitely push the early game rotations.
So it looks like they've gotten things pretty much sorted out. We'll be ready in just a few minutes. So in the meantime, we'll take it to a quick commercial break, some music, and hopefully we'll be back with the game fairly soon. Hello everyone, and we're back with the Surreal Gaming Strife Test Tournament. The first one we have ever run, and the first one that we are also casting as well. So, Braun, or the Source, sorry, and Lake, how are you doing?
Good. Now that we've sorted out some small issues, apologize, guys, for the delay. There was a server issue with some ping disparities. We were trying to determine what the perfect server was to give these guys the best chance to be able to compete on equal footing. We've figured that out to the best of our ability, and we should be getting into game.
Yep, so your two casters for this game are going to be the Source and Lake, so I will not be casting this game, even though I casted the last one. So enjoy those two. They have quite a bit of, or Lake in particular has quite a bit of experience playing Strife. A lot of you guys should recognize him. He plays for the Surreal Gaming Strife team, who won the SPL last season as well. So quite a bit of knowledge here, and it looks like we're almost ready to get the game started.
And both teams appear to be ready. We're just waiting for the go-ahead. And there it is. Should be into game in about 3, 2, 1. And I haven't actually gotten to talk about any of the picks. So while we load in the next minute, why don't you give us another rundown of the picks?
Oh, absolutely. So, FnK Gaming actually came out with an interesting comp is with the Harwer, Ray, Shank, Vex, and Malady. They definitely have like a pick skirmish type comp. And new team has the Bow, Claudessa, Featherstone, Carter, Vermilion. They have a very strong team fight as far as they have the double AD, they do have the Carter, they have the hard engage with the Bow, the follow-up with the Claudessa. The only problem I see with their comp is it just doesn't have that hard CC mage in a Ray or a Malady. Not saying you necessarily need it, but it's a very good tool to have within your kit as far as like building a team comp to be able to hard disengage with some of that CC or even hard engage. So they're definitely going to be relying on that Bow to essentially set those fights up perfect with his ultimate. You typically see him run the rocket boots, kind of jump in there with his W proc, get that stun and that ultimate up against the wall or kind of knock some of those carries back into their team. And then you can, from there, follow up with like a Claudessa hook and a Vermilion ultimate, kind of lock those people down. FnK Gaming has the complete opposite style. They have the Malady kind of skirmish picks. They have the Ray being able to skirmish pick, and the Shank to try to be able to, grab those hooks, displace some of the picks from new team, and get those kills. With the Vex able to possibly power play with some of his split push potential, or they may just do a Harrower split push. So I'm really excited to see how they play this.
Yeah, FnK. They don't, one thing, although Ray is pretty squishy and Malady is pretty squishy, they're not always the best targets to pick because they have such good AoE CC that if you pick one of them out, especially with the Bow ultimate, and they're not, and they don't get completely stunned out or blown up, there's a lot of potential for Ray to lay down a stun in the middle of the enemy team. It's like, okay, we're boxed in, or we all just got stunned. Same with Malady getting down the slow. So, if I were Bow, I'd be careful about how he picks his engagements.
Absolutely. I think the other thing about FnK Gaming's comp, the comp can work. I've never personally seen a comp like this being ran, but I really think it had to do with a lot of the pick ban phase as far as the Bastion being banned out and then new team picking up the Bow Claudessa in their first 2 picks.
So we do have a short pause coming out from the side of FnK, I believe. Everybody's text is in red, so I can't really tell, who's on what side making that call. But it should be restarting in just a few seconds, and there we go.
So
what do you think about the lane matchups here?
I was just going to say that I'm a little confused onto what they're going to run as far as their lane matchups go. I know that they have a new roster. We've played against them in Season 1. We played against FnK Gaming in Season 1, and they played a dedicated jungler majority of the time. They've swapped up some of their players, kind of built a new team together. They do have some of their older players, but I don't know exactly where they go as far as their lanes and where they would prefer. But I'm assuming that you're probably going to see Harrower in the bot lane with Bipolar, which will do fairly well against the Featherstone. That's going to be a definite skill matchup between the Featherstone Harrower. But I think I'm wrong in the fact that Malady's rotating bottom.
So some unconventional lanes here. We've got Ray Vex. I don't really know that to be a particularly common lane.
No, it's typically not a common lane. I think that they just picked the Ray and the Vex together just because those were the picks available on the board. And it could be comfort picks as far as Hibashi definitely enjoying to play that Vex over any other hero.
Indeed. So Claudessa, Vermilion in the middle lane, up against that Vex and Ray. Harrower, Shank. So that's not a bad lane. I've seen that one a couple times against Bo and Carter. So a lot, engage up in their face and then poke as much as you can. What do you think about the double ranged carry decision with Featherstone and Vermilion?
I think the only reason that was a double range pick was because they ran the Featherstone bottom. When I seen the picks come out, I thought it was very unlikely that they were going to run a Vermilion top and a Featherstone mid or vice versa. I had a feeling that they were definitely going to run one of those 80s in the bot lane. It can be useful, but typically as far as like meta and efficiency goes within the lane, you rarely ever see a double AD in your two top and mid lanes. And that's mainly because of the efficiency on the map. As far as being able to push global objectives, early towers, you can't really accomplish that goal with two farm lanes. But you can do that with a roaming mid lane that's able to get those kills, push the advantage in that mid lane, and then start to affect other lanes by either roaming top or bottom and getting those early Baldiers and those early towers.
It's also probably why we see a lot of Rook solo bot, just because he has the ability to bully people out of lane and then rotate when they've backed, or when he manages to kill them, because we see a lot of solo bot Rooks just picking up kills when, they probably shouldn't have.
He's a very safe hero too. If you think about Rook's kit, he has that hook to kind of disengage. He has the invulnerability. His kit is designed to be that
mid lane, this Claudessa is really low. Huge engagement out of the Vex, doing a lot of damage. Now Ray looking to pick up the kill. Vermilion doing a bunch of damage to him. Nice stun out of the Ray. That's going to slow down the Vermilion chase, and now they're back onto the Vex. Claudessa is going to get the hook, and that's going to be first blood going over to Vermilion. Nice pickup on the side of New Team.
Yeah, they played that matchup or that fight very well as far as being able to disengage a lot of the initial damage and then follow up exactly when those cooldowns were down. Between the cheese shot and the Claudessa hook, picking up those kills were fairly easy follow-ups.
Yeah, meanwhile, up in top lane, a lot of pressure coming out of New Team. They've done a really good job. They've already sent Harrower back to base, so Shankage up here on his own. That's going to be a little bit of a gold loss. And tower gold loss for FnK, tower pressure for New Team. Especially just the fact that Carter's range is just so insane, and I think the burst out of him is a little out of control right now.
The range and the poke between the Bo and Carter lane is really strong. They have really high push potential. The Carter's E just shreds through creep waves. And the Harrower Shank don't have the best clear as far as a team composition goes, so they're going to be pushed against this tower fairly quickly, and I think they should be expecting this tower to go down without very much effort coming out of New Team.
So New Team pushing up pretty heavily on the mid. They've begun to get a little bit of tower down there, and this Claudessa is playing almost fearlessly. Top lane, they have complete and total control. FnK is going to need a pick soon. They're not at level, they don't have their ultimates yet. Wait, no, you get your ultimate at level 5 in strength. What am I talking about?
Bot lane, they're doing a pretty good trade back and forth. Lag was barely able to survive. I honestly thought that the Malady was going to be able to get it. He just missed the Q, so Lag was able to walk away full health.
Yeah. Thank you, Azaraki. Don't mention him. We were getting a little bit of additional information coming in from the admins about some other events going on, and either way, huge pressure out of new team. They should be able to pick up this tower unless they decide to dive FNK, and a little bit of damage down onto Bo. But again, this is just a slow, methodical push, and that's huge poke coming out of the Bo throw.
So as far as the pressures coming out from new team, they're putting tons of pressures with their current lane compositions. But on top of that, they're also applying a huge gold lead as far as they're all farming over 400 GPM, some of them 430 plus. And that is going to be very strong in the fact that they're already dominating these lanes. If they can use that GPM advantage in the early game, they're definitely setting up right by taking this top tower and going to be able to rotate and apply some of that more global objective pressure and get some more towers.
Oh, nice ultimate coming out of Carter. They didn't feel like following up onto it, probably because the MIA call came out from mid. This Ray is sneaking around the backside. Mid lane Vex is pretty much on his own, so he's going to need to be careful. But nice dash forward by the Ray. He's going to land the stun down onto the Carter. Carter needs to be careful. Bo is soaking up a ton of damage. Carter's throwing abilities backwards. It's going to be the kill pickup for Ray. So real good play there out of FNK to rotate in and make up for the fact that they've been losing a lot of pressure. And meanwhile, in the middle lane, that middle tower went down. Now we see Claudessa from new team rotating into the bottom lane to back up the Featherstone.
Yeah, that's just the experienced team of new team coming in, knowing that they were probably going to take a kill, but they made the best of it by grabbing those big global objectives. Those towers are huge within this game, especially within a 10-minute mark.
Coming in from Vex. He's ults into the bottom lane, starts to go on top of the Featherstone. Nice knockup by the Malady, but she's taking a ton of damage. Nice destructive damage coming out of this Featherstone, just being able to steal away that power, cut all of her damage in half. Ray is rotating in. I'm not sure if he's going to make it there in time. Oh, meanwhile, up in the top lane, huge engagement there. Ultimate comes out of Vermilion, a little bit more damage down in the Shank, and he's going to fall. Carter's going to pick up that one, throws out another Q, does not manage to let it connect, and back in the bottom lane, action all over the map. They brought down the Vex with a coordinated dive between Claudessa and this Featherstone.
Wow, new team is putting pressure all over the map. Between the top lane, they're actually able to get a couple kills in that top lane, had a really good engagement with their bow, followed up with the Vermilion and the Carter. On top of that, bot lane was able to get the kills, the tower. They got Baldir off of it. That's a huge gold swing in new team's favor.
Yep, pressure coming out of FNK, looking to try and get something middle, but they weren't able to get the numbers there. Bo and Carter rotated in and stopped that push. So now, what is FNK going to need to do to start turning things around? They obviously are looking to make a gank here. Let's see whether or not this goes off. Claudessa is going to run into that Vex, and Vex is starting to run. He's going to pop out the rockets. The backup coming in from the Ray, and now huge rotation coming in from new team. Let's see if they can pick anything up. The Q comes out from the Claudessa, nothing there. Nice knockup by the Malady. A ton of damage coming in from the Carter. He's going to land the ultimate down the Malady, but not going to be able to follow that up. Throws out another firework rocket and doesn't pick up anything there. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Vermilion went down. The Shank and Harrower combo starting to do a little bit of work. Should be able to get some pressure down onto this tower. And the remaining members of new team are going to have to look to pick up some objectives somewhere else. It looks like they're going to rotate forward into the middle lane and maybe pick up another tower.
Yeah, so you asked exactly what FnK needs to do to get back into this game. Essentially, they're doing it. They were able to survive that attempted all-in initiate in the bot lane, and they were able to get the top lane kill and a tower off of it. If they can continue to defend some of these global objectives like this mid lane.
Nice stun onto the bow. As you're saying, they're trying to do what they can to defend. Claudessa doing a ton of damage. Huge damage down onto the Vex. He's going to get destroyed. Actually, he's still alive, but it's Bo who goes down. Bo going a little bit too deep. New team does pick up the tower, but now the focus is onto the Claudessa. Nice damage coming in from the Featherstone. He's cutting right through that Malady. Shank landed the hook on Claudessa, but that was not the target he needed. Now the Featherstone is doing work. Picks up the triple kill. Damage follow-up from the Carter. They have pressure now onto this generator, and they may be able to take this. Harrower following up, lands the slow down onto the Carter, but oh my god, that damage was huge. The rocket's gonna come out. Is he gonna get away from it? He'll get hit, but it won't be enough. And now Featherstone and Claudessa moving into the jungle, picking up some farm. Vermilion is up in the top lane, solo farming. That is a huge amount of pressure coming out from new team, and nothing that FnK can do to respond.
New team's just doing everything right. They're They're backing up when they need to. They're taking some of those big global or big objectives on the map, like those ancient camps. And it looks like they're starting to set up for No, I was going to say Baldir. It's hard to tell. They don't have the timers anymore, but you have to kind of read that sundial for it.
Oh, hook back onto this Claudessa. Nice high ground help coming in from this Vermilion. Huge damage. The Ray stun was there, but full damage coming out of Vermilion. Claudessa chasing down onto the Ray. She's got to go down, but that's still a 2-for-1 in favor of New Team. Now Carter trying to do what he can to the Malady end combination of this Shank. Huge ultimate combo coming in. Carter picks up the second kill. Nice backup from Bo, and they're going to get Malady now pressuring down onto this inner turret. Just, it seems like the numbers are always there for New Team in their advantage. And now Bo looking to go on the Shank. Nah, he's going to back up.
New Team's just pressing that advantage. They had the early game advantage, all farming above 400 GPM in the early game, and they're snowballing that lead to where FnK really, the only thing they can do is try to get picks and grab some objectives off of it, but they're just so far behind that once they do get a few picks, New Team's actually able to 4v5 them regardless of being down one hero because they're just so far ahead.
Ooh, and out comes the Zealot Blade? Is that
Yeah,
the attachment item?
Zealot Blade
coming
Rush.
up for Vermilion. He was able to pick that up. Oh, there comes the missed ultimate by Shank. Carter lands his ultimate. He's under pressure. Harrow chasing down. Stun comes out of Ray. That's going to be another pickup. Can Vermilion get back into the fight? It looks like they're going to have to back up. Claudessa was rotating over, but that wasn't going to happen, so that's going to be the pickup onto the Carter. They may look to do a Baldir as it is up, but they seem to just be positioning as Featherstone is in the bottom lane. Nice ultimate coming in from the Vec, but he is nowhere near on the level of damage that Featherstone is putting out. That steal away on the power is going to cut the damage of those Vex rockets essentially in half. Featherstone rocking his Fellblade plus power. He hasn't picked up another item. I think his courier is probably going to be on the way for him. He's sitting on a little bit of gold. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Claudessa making plays. She's going to get out of trouble. Nice juke away by their Vermilion, and now they're going to continue to chase onto this Harrow. He's going to dash into the tower. Bo does not follow up, and just so quickly they're blowing through these characters without, the biggest burst heap. Yeah, Carter has a lot of burst, but, I would have thought it'd take them longer to pick up a lot of these kills.
No, absolutely. And you also see some of these item builds with the Featherstone picking up a dampening cloak. He didn't rush that damage. He actually rushed the early defensive item. Really interesting, but it actually sets him up perfect, knowing that he is a potential pick, or the pick potential from FnK is kind of high between the Malady and Ray. So being able to survive that burst and put out his sustained damage is going to be huge. And while he's putting pressure in the bot lane, exactly what he should be doing, and he's also moving and putting this pressure to where they're going to grab a free Baldir, and there's really nothing FnK can do about it.
I also think the defensive rush, it adds to Featherstone's kit as he steals power. That means he doesn't have to build as much of it early, and that lets him go defensive. That lets him become harder to kill, and he's like, okay, well, I didn't have to spend that, 2,000 gold on a damage item right away. I can just take the power away from you. He's going to skirt away from a huge damage combo coming out from Ray and Featherstone. They were looking to pick up the kill. Now Shank rotating in is going to run right into Bo and Carter. I don't think he wants to pick this fight without any help. Tries to make the hook play onto the Carter and is going to have to back up as there wasn't anybody there. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Vermilion continuing to push, and the double AD carry comp is letting them sort of split push more or less endlessly. Malady looking to rotate in towards the Vermilion, but she won't be able to pick up a kill there. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, there's a lot of fight going on here. Bo looking for a play. He's going to get stunned out by the Ray. Ray is going to get flipped back by Claudessa. Claudessa very close to going under tower, taking a ton of damage. Featherstone is there as well as Carter. So again, numbers advantage for New Team.
Yeah, they're just pushing that advantage. That Bo is so much further ahead than any other hard initiate, and as far as the damage goes on FnK Gaming, so he's actually able to dive in and get those initiations off without the threat of taking a huge amount of return damage.
Yeah, I think at this point, split pushing clearly isn't going to work because the double AD carry composition is allowing New Team to split push more or less endlessly. They can't win the burst war, and Claudessa is going to run right around this corner, does a bunch of damage. The stun comes out of Ray, but doesn't connect with any targets. The Q from Claudessa doesn't land, almost picking up the hook. Shank tried to grab that Carter, but Carter going to manage to sidestep that one. Now they're going to continue the pressure. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Vermilion is going to go down to the Malady, so she was able to win the burst war there. You probably should have seen that as he has the Zealot Blade. That's not a lot of raw damage, mostly attack speed. Nice hook back in onto the Featherstone, by the Claudessa. Featherstone doing a ton of damage. They turned onto the Ray. They've turned onto the Shank. Claudessa is tanking up endlessly, and she isn't going down. Featherstone is bringing down the tower. The Harrower is going to pick up the Claudessa, but that's not really going to be worth it. Out comes the bow throw. Double kill for Bow. That's another tower. And even though Malady had picked up 1 kill of herself, that's still a 4 for 1 or 4 for 2 in favor of new team. They may be able to rotate on to Syndara or towards another objective.
Bo was an MVP in that in that team fight. As far as he ran in, he stunned, and right off the bat was able to get the huge ultimate onto 2 carries of FnK against the wall, and they instantly blew up with the Featherstone damage. And the whole time, Claudessa's tanking all this and allowing his carries to just get in there and do tons of damage without having to tank anything. Like, FnK just can't take and burst through those big tanks in front line of new team right now.
I also think the damage coming out of this Carter is pretty intense. He's got that that Grimoire. Is that the name of that item? The
Grimoire?
No, the Grimoire. He's got the Grimoire. He's got a ton of mana, so he's just sort of spamming out, you know, just endless rockets, and now they're gonna rotate onto this Baldir. In comes the ultimate coming in from Vex. That's gonna be a ton of damage down onto the Vermilion, but he's managed to make it out of there. Now they focus their attention onto the Claudessa. Claudessa's still alive, and Featherstone is cutting through them in the backline. Turning onto the Shake, he's gonna pick him up. Turning onto the Harrower. Harrower's gonna transform and try and run away. Now the focus is now on the Ray. The bow throw is gonna miss. It's only gonna do a little bit of damage, but Featherstone is there. More damage. It's actually gonna be Carter who picks up that one, but he's cutting through their health bars. That's going to be the rotation, probably back onto the Baldir. Actually, they have Syndara. They have Krytos because they defeated Syndara already, and they're going to look towards that middle generator with only 2 people up. The death timers aren't that long, but new team is so strong right now, and they have Bow. They'll be able to heal up through some of those health bar deficiencies and bring in Krytos to try and bring down this generator.
Yeah, I fully expect them to be able to get the generator off this. They did waste a lot of ultimate.
Back in onto Carter. Shank finally managing to make a play, but the Featherstone is just too strong. A lot of damage down onto Bow. He's going to get knocked up a little bit more there from the Vex, and now in comes the second AD carry, because why not just have 2? Vermilion comes in doing a bunch of damage. Nobody has fallen with the exception of that one Carter hook in. Down goes the generator. Bow drops the healing totem. A little bit more damage onto the Ray. No, Featherstone isn't going to chase that in, and that's going to be a ton of gold going over to the side of new team, and I think they're just going to rotate over onto Baldir.
Yeah, you could see that power graph right below the in-game timer just swung huge after that generator in new team's favor. And that's just a representation of how far ahead they are compared to FnK Gaming.
Yeah, if we take a quick look at the gold graph, it is, wow, that is a huge gold disparity. I think that's gold difference. So if I'm looking at this properly, they're at 20,000 gold total. Is that how that works?
The difference between the two.
Oh, that's the difference. So they're 20,000 gold ahead.
Yep, gold difference. So they are 22,000 roughly gold ahead. Yeah, that's a huge lead. Not to mention that if you take a look at some of the items out of new team, they were afraid of getting picked off by the Malady. Huge burst followed up by the Ray. So you see the Vermilion.
Bow. Speaking of that Ray, he gets destroyed, turning onto the Shank, who's supposed to be tanky. He's going to get blown up too. Nice shield comes out from the Vex. Is it going to be enough? He's going to juke away from the shot coming out of Carter. Another rocket is going to miss, but that's just so much damage. Harrower, he's sitting off in the wings, but nobody here is tanky enough to deal with the burst coming out of Carter and the sustained damage out of pretty much everyone else on the side of new team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so hard to pick through what new team has established right now. They have a good amount of damage. They're just so far ahead, and they're actually able to finish some of those huge defensive items like barrier token.
Ooh, hook coming out of Shank is going to miss the Claudessa. Nice wave clear coming out of Mally that may be able to help him. Shank getting destroyed. So much damage. The shield from Vex is going to keep him alive, but Bo is in the backline. He's going to pull Harrower forward. He's taking a lot of damage. Nice shots coming out of Ray. Betterstone trying to cut through as much of it as he can. It's going to be Carter who picks up the kill. Another nice rocket combination onto Malady, and this Claudessa doesn't care at all. Carter going to step forward, picks up another kill. Is he going to get off the kill? No, gets stunned out by the Ray. Great play from the Ray there, and the Rockets out of this. Vex are going to help him pick up the kill, but Vermilion is in the back line. They have that double AD carry. They were able to protect him throughout the entire fight. The only members up for new team, and they're able to pick up another generator.
Yeah, this is so huge. I can't stress enough how well new team actually traded tower aggro or generator aggro while they did this dive. Lag was taking the aggro right as soon as Bo died. He was in there, he tanked 4 shots, backed out, and they traded with the Carter, which was amazing. They all dove past and traded perfectly to where they're all able to get in there and just do tons of sustained damage. And there was nothing FnK Gaming could do about it. They didn't have the hard engage being able to get in there and punish some of these carries from being able to swap this generator damage. It was just great play by new team. They pushed their advantage from the early game with their GPM, the lane dominance, their rotations, just everything. They did everything right. I'm really excited to see more of them play.